Hi, I'm Kitty Felde. 2025 is a very special year for the Book Club for Kids. This year, we celebrate our 10th anniversary. But a very different version of the show aired on a local TV cable channel, LA 36, where episodes were taped at the downtown LA Public Library. Well, this year we will be sharing some of those conversations once a month, and we start with readers from St. Mark's Lutheran School in Hacienda Heights, California, discussing Gail Carson Levine's classic tale on Cinderella, Enchanted. And let me introduce our group of folks who are going to be talking about the book this month, and they are all from St. Mark's Lutheran School in Hacienda Heights. So let's start on the end. That is Colin Parmenter. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
And sitting next to him is Harleen Marwa. Nice to meet you.
Delighted to meet you.
Also here is Nathaniel Lactina.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Did I do that right, Nathaniel? Close enough?
Lactina.
All right, we're going to get that right. And Jessica Gonzalez. Nice to meet you, too.
Nice to meet you as well.
So who saw the movie, first of all?
I saw the movie.
I did as well.
Okay, so we'll talk in a minute about the difference between the movie and the book. But let's start off with what the book is actually about. Jessica, why don't you start us off?
Well, the book is about a girl named Ella. And early in the book, when she is born, she receives a gift of obedience from a fairy named Lucinda. And this enables anyone to give her a command. And she has to fulfill it, or nausea or breathlessness and other complaints come to her. And so the whole book is about how all the challenges she faces and the obstacles that she has to overcome because she doesn't have a mother figure, and her father is very greedy, and her mother dies early in the book from a cold. And so she meets Prince Charmant, who loves her for what she is. And so in the end, she ends up breaking her curse because of selfless love for him.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the characters. We've heard about our main character, Ella. Who else is in the book there?
Well, there's a fairy godmother whose name is Mandy. Mm-hmm. She is a cook and a helper around the house.
Is she different than the kinds of fairy godmothers we usually think about?
Yes, she's very different. She doesn't act very fairy-like. She's sort of, you would expect fairies to be flying around with their little wings and stuff, but not Mandy. She's just taking care of Ella and acting like a housekeeper would. And Ella couldn't even figure out she was a fairy until Mandy eventually told her.
Colin, who else is in the book?
Hattie and Olive.
And who are they?
They are Ella's stepsisters.
The evil stepsisters, but just how evil are they?
Hattie eventually finds out about Ella's curse, and her goal is to make Ella suffer in the long run, because as you find out later, she is jealous of Ella for being as pretty and brave as she is. But Olive, on the other hand, is not as bright as Hattie and just goes for petty needs, like for short-term needs like gold and silver.
Nathaniel, who else is in the book?
Lucinda is also in the book, and she is another fairy godmother. And she is very rude, but she's very funny in the book. She bestows gifts that she thinks are very good for the people that she's giving them to, but they end up being curses because it just pops right up in her head, and she decides to give it to them. So she gives Ella the curse of obedience.
Well, let's talk a bit about that curse in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about, this is another variation on the Cinderella story. How is it different? How is it the same?
Well, I think it's different in ways because the stepsisters they have more character and traits that you realize, and they're more interesting than the stepsisters in Cinderella.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what else is different? Narwa?
I think that is different because the prince in this book interacts with Ella a lot more than in the other book.
And he just sort of showed up for the ball and for the
Yes.
shoe in Cinderella. Yeah. What else?
And also in this book, Ella has a father figure in her life, and in Cinderella, all Cinderella has is her stepmother and stepsisters.
Colin, anything else? Similarities, differences?
One difference is Ella is braver and more outspoken than Cinderella.
More spunky.
Yeah.
Not kind of wishy-washy and boring.
Yeah.
Does it make her a more interesting character, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nathaniel, what else?
There's a lot of other characters. There's ogres and elves and giants, and the giants are more than what they seem, and the ogres are really interesting because they can tell your secrets by just looking at you. And the elves, I think, were kind of cool because
Why?
they were very nice, and all they ate was liquid products like soup, and they had fruit soup, and for the main course, vegetable soup. And they had this one sculpture that made all these different items. They made this wolf cup that they gave to Ella because it was so beautiful. It looked like it was moving and howling.
So you liked all the cool stuff that was in there.
Yeah, the elves were very nice to Ella.
So you guys saw the film. Again, tell me the difference. Did you like the film adaptation of this, or did they miss some things you wish they'd put in, or what'd you think?
Actually, I wouldn't recommend it because the book is much more detailed and it has more events than the movie. So
Usually that happens, unfortunately, with films. They can't put everything in.
Yeah.
But what else? Is the tone different? Were the characters different, do you think?
well, the events were different and the characters, they were pretty similar.
They were. So at least they kept true to that.
Yes.
What'd you think, Nathaniel?
There was a lot of different events, such as when Ella met this elf named Slannon, and they didn't mention him that much in the book, and they just made a lot of things different.
Now, some people might say that this is a girl's book, so I'll ask the two gentlemen. I mean, you guys had to read this book, but if you didn't have to read this book, Colin, would you have picked this book up? Was it embarrassing to walk around campus with the cover of a girl on the cover of the book?
No, it wasn't embarrassing because when I read it,
Yeah.
there was a choice between Ella Enchanted and Dave at Night, and I picked up Ella Enchanted, and I didn't expect it to be as good as it really was. And
Because what were you expecting it to be?
I was expecting it to be more of like Cinderella almost.
Yeah.
Not much flavor in it, just a girl trying to find a better way of living. But this book had a lot of adventure and a lot more conflict than Cinderella did.
So better structure.
Yeah. It had
And
better
interesting
plot
characters.
line.
Nathaniel, what'd you think? I mean, again, was it embarrassing carrying around a book with a girl on the cover?
Not really, because a lot of the people read it during summer, and they thought it was a really good book. And I liked it personally because I like fiction, and I like the fairies and all the ogres and all the mythical creatures, and it just was really fantastic.
Well, that's good. That's a high recommendation. Did we get as high a grade from you, Narwa?
Yes. It was a great book, and I would recommend it to everyone that has a chance to have the time to read this book and enjoy it with all the full events and everything that's in this book.
Let's talk about gifts. And especially, we're taping this around December, and we're all thinking about either Hanukkah or Christmas gifts. So what is a gift? I mean, and what happens when a gift goes wrong? What does that mean? What is exactly a gift, Jessica?
I think a gift is something that a person gives to you, and as long as they really want to give it to you and they feel that it's a token of their appreciation, then it really is a gift. And you sort of have to just be thankful for what you get.
Other definitions? You're nodding, Narwa. You're agreeing.
I'm agreeing with her. I would also like to add on to that by saying that a gift is something that helps the person who's receiving it. If it doesn't help the person, and that's what happens when a gift goes bad.
So there's a bad gift. I mean, there's a bad side. I don't know what the name of that would be. A bad gift, I suppose. But
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the bad gift. So the bad gift was the gift of obedience, Colin. Why was that such a bad thing? And was Lucinda meaning for it to be a bad thing?
No, Lucinda, in fact, was thinking it would be great, such a great gift to have, but it turns out that the gift of obedience is very troublesome because even if people demanded her to chop off her own head or put her life or life of loved ones at risk, she'd have to do it.
Did you think about what it would be like, Nathaniel, if you had been given this gift of obedience? How your life would be different today?
My life would be very different from today because I'm kind of lazy. I don't listen to things at first, but I get told to do it a lot of times. I will do it.
So your mother would really like you to have to only tell you once.
My mother would love that gift.
What are some of the other downsides? What would you think, Narwa? Would you like this gift?
I think that this gift would be a lot harder nowadays due to the fact that on TV, when kids are watching the TV, they have all these commercials, and it might say buy this now, and they'll have to call and buy it as soon as they turn 18 because if you're 18 or older, come and buy this now. And also on websites, if they're trying to find your email or something and it says you've won, click here, then they'll have to click there. So there might be a lot of downsides due to sarcasm and all these things that people are telling you to do, but it's sort of implied in as a question, but they say it as a command.
Jessica, would you like this particular gift?
The gift of obedience, particularly, I would not like it because some people would take advantage of you, and just like Mandy and Ella's mother told her not to tell Sir Peter, her father, about the gift because they would take advantage of her and use it to his advantage because he was really greedy. So I think people would try to take advantage of me, and that would be the downside of the gift.
Is there a gift you'd like, a fairy godmother? I mean, if one sort of walked in the door right now, is there a gift that maybe you'd like to have?
A gift of patience.
Whoa, I'd take that one. Or as I always say, give me patience and give it now. I don't have the patience to wait for it. Patience is good, okay.
It is.
All right. What's the downside of patience? What?
Go ahead.
You'll always have to be waiting and waiting, and if someone never does it, you'll always just be waiting and waiting.
Okay.
So on.
All right, that's okay. Okay, so there's good, just like the whole thing with obedience too. Yes. There's the downside. All right, Nathaniel, what gift do you want?
Probably like a superpower.
What kind?
To become invisible.
Okay. The invisible man. Tell me why. Why do you want to be invisible?
Because I can go anywhere I want without people knowing, and I could walk around and just go wherever I want.
Like, where would you like to go that you can't go now?
Well, I would probably like to skip school a couple times, say I'm sick. Or I would like to go to the mall and just watch a movie anytime I want.
So you'd like to get in free, and you'd like to skip school a few times without getting caught. Okay. And would this be a gift that you could call upon at will, or would you always be invisible?
Probably I would like to call upon at will.
Okay.
Because then I wouldn't really have a life if I was invisible all the time.
All right, so what's the downside of invisibility?
No one will notice you.
No one will what?
Notice you.
No one will notice you. You'll go unnoticed. Yeah. What else, Jessica?
I also think it's what Colin said, nobody would know that you're there. So they wouldn't respond
also,
to
as the user, you could take advantage of it. Instead of other people taking advantage of it, you as a user could take advantage of it and do some things that are wrong.
Like what?
Like you could steal.
Yeah, but would you see the money like being taken out of the bank? You wouldn't see you, but you'd see this money sort of floating.
Yeah, but you couldn't really find the person who did it. Like on a security camera, you'd see this money floating.
Oh, that's true. Of course, if you're the only invisible man in the world, probably they could track you down, right? Or not. All right, Narwa, what gift do you want?
I probably wouldn't necessarily want a gift, as in something a power that she gives to me because I'm happy the way God made me. But I might want a material possession just to prove that I met a fairy and that a fairy gave me this locket or like a jewelry box or something of that sort.
So you want something tangible. You want proof that a fairy actually visited you so people don't think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the downside of that gift?
No one will believe you.
That's right. Where'd you go? You went to Kmart and picked up, you went to Target and picked up this fabulous looking jewelry box? Yeah, how would you get people to believe you, Narwa?
I would ask the fairy to put some magic in it, so if I press a button, you could see the fairy or something of that sort, just so that they'd believe me.
It's interesting you're saying that because you guys go to a Christian school and you're supposed to be operating on faith here, you know, and here you're asking for proof.
Well, I have faith because God built me the way I am, and I don't want anyone to change that.
No, I understand that, but you want to have proof to show other people that a fairy came to see you. You can't trust in their having faith in you.
Well, they might think I'm crazy because they might not believe in fairies.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. I understand that. Colin, what gift do you want?
I go along more with Harleen Marwas.
For what?
I go along with Harleen because I like who I am. It's my own personality. I wouldn't want to change anything. I may want material possession.
What? Come on, waiting for someone to say something like,
A locket, maybe.
Oh, come on, you don't want a locket. What do you really want?
Like you can store a picture of them in it or something.
You want a cell phone with pictures? I mean, come on.
Oh,
Give me something. You guys are sounding like you're living
cell
in the Middle Ages here. What do you really want for a gift? You got a fairy. She's saying, okay, come on, Colin. What do you want? You want your braces off?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just offering suggestions.
Yeah.
It's not I'm going to do it for you or anything.
That'd be nice.
This idea about belief in that other place, magical places, it's something we all grew up with when we were really little. Do you still hold on to any part of that, or at least maybe wishing and hoping that those mythical places, yes, Narwa, you're nodding, are still true? Yes?
Yes. I still believe in Santa.
Good.
Yes. Santa's my friend.
Okay, that's a very... If you're going to have a friend, Santa's a really good one to have.
Yes.
That's good. What else? Who else? Anybody else grab onto things?
I try to grab onto it because it gives me a sense of just like I remember when I was little and all the things I did and just the memories I really try to hold on to.
Yeah. That kind of some magic
that sparks.
It's harder to find. Yeah. All right, boys, the cynical ones. Is there any, well, you were like the elves, so is there any, Nathaniel, is there any sort of mythical creatures that you really, secretly in your heart, believe are living someplace? You just haven't found them yet?
I believe every single person who gives you things are true. Like Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy, yes.
Elves, gnomes,
Yes.
giants?
I love all those things.
Where would I find them?
Yeah, very cool.
Where would you find them?
I would find them in my backyard or...
So you've got a very good imagination.
Yes.
There was an island I went to this summer in Maine. I can't even remember the name of it, but kids would come and they would build fairy castles in the woods. So you'd be hiking on the trail through the woods on this island, and all of a sudden if you look down under like a bush, somebody had taken twigs and stones and created a whole little fairy house. And then you'd walk a little further and someone would have like a ranch style house, or you'd go over here and it would be a castle, and it was the whole island was full of these little fairy castles. I know, I don't know where they...
special.
It was special. It made you think that after dark, when all the tourists went home, the fairies maybe really did come out and play. This book is, you guys said you liked it because it was lively characters.
It was very easily to believe.
Easy to believe. Why? What makes a book like this, and compare it to another book that you thought was maybe not quite so well written? The writers aren't here, so you can be honest.
Yeah, it's hard to say because I usually try to imagine in my head what the book is like. So if it's dull or boring, I can imagine it in my head, and it doesn't seem as dull. So I kind of read along with the words, but it goes through my head like in pictures. So no book's really dull to me.
Really?
Yeah.
You've never found one that's failed to make movies in your brain?
Yeah, it's kind of like movies.
Yeah. I know it is exactly, except they're better because you don't have a budget. I mean, you can do all the special effects, not just one or two of them.
Yeah.
Narwa, what makes a book like this? I mean, you guys all liked this book. What makes this book sing, as we say?
I think that the book was very, had a lot of suspense in it, and Ella was going through all these adventures, and you could believe it because Ella, her personality was very believable. She's just a kid, basically, trying to escape this curse so that she could be a regular kid and just have a regular life. So it was a very fun book to read.
So conflict, that's good. You have conflict, that's a good one. Nathaniel, what makes this a good book?
I think I go along with Harleen. I really like the adventures, and Ella was just really young, and I would think that a person who's older would take on the challenges more easy, and she was very strong and brave, and she interacted with a lot of characters in the book.
Jessica, what makes this a good book?
Well, I think that I can really relate to Ella because sometimes she gets so frustrated, and I could really relate to that frustration. And in my mind, I sort of think of places in my life where I've been frustrated, and that's how I can relate to her.
So as a character you personally could relate to.
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Prince Charming, because in fairy tales there's always, the Prince Charming. Well, I think it was you, Colin, that said this guy had more character than usually the princes have. Or did you say that?
No, I didn't say that.
Somebody said that. Well, let me ask it. Does this guy have any more character than usually the princes in all of those Disney movies have as Prince Charming? Yeah? What makes it so?
He interacts with Ella a lot more, and he is more in the book than regular Prince Charming. And he's very nice to her, and he isn't just Prince Charming. He's a prince who goes through a lot of adventures. He fights ogres, and he keeps the castle running pretty well.
How? I'm trying to visualize keeping the castle running pretty well.
Well, he treats everyone really fair, and he's very kind to all the people, and he takes in thought of what people say. He's not really just all into himself.
So Harleen, is he a modern prince, do you think? More of the 21st century than whatever this is?
Well, the prince in this story is very nice, and he respects everybody and thinks everybody's equal. He doesn't treat people differently because of how much money they have. And a modern day prince might just sit on his throne and expect everyone to do everything for him, because people are more spoiled nowadays than they were back then, because back then you had to work for what you earned and what you got.
Even kings had to do that. How does his character compare to the father, Sir Peter, Jessica?
Well, they said in the book that King Harold, his father, his face was softened in the sun, and he's just like his father because he's very fair and he treats people equal, and he doesn't think that he's the best because he's in the royal family.
How about comparing him to Ella's father, though?
He's not greedy like Ella's father, and he doesn't do things because he wants to make himself richer.
How many of you guys read Dave at Night, one of the other Gail Carson Levines? You did, Colin. Well, you did too, Nathaniel. Compare the two books. Dave at Night is a completely different story. It takes place in modern day times. Describe it for me, Colin.
It takes place in modern day times. Dave's mother is dead at the beginning of the book, and in the first chapter, I believe, his father dies.
So I guess similarities we could see that you have a lot of dead parents in Gail Carson Levine books.
And then his stepmother can't afford to take care of him and sends him off to the Hebrew home for boys. And there, it's harsh and strict. It's a harsh, strict environment. He makes friends and sneaks out quite often. So there's a lot of similarities in there.
And let's talk about the two main characters, Nathaniel, the difference between Ella and Dave, or the similarities between the two.
The similarities is that they are both very kind-hearted, and they make friends really easily, and they just treat everyone like they wanted to be treated. And since it was around the 1920s, that they were just roaming around in the streets, and the kids had a lot of free will, but he had to spend time locked up in that Hebrew home for boys. But he still made a lot of friends.
Is there a fairy tale that you guys would have thought about rewriting? Is there one in particular you've ever thought about, this really could be better if I wrote it, or I have a really great idea on how to change something or update it? I mean, can you even think of a fairy tale that you could update in a different way? Either setting it in modern times or doing a kind of weird twist on it? Or even an old, go ahead, Harleen.
I think I could rewrite Hansel and Gretel.
Really?
I enjoyed that book a lot, but I think I could make it more modern.
How? How would you do it?
The kids, they could be living in a city life, and the father and mother, the mother could be like a gold digger, and she's only there for the father's money. And one day the father says, the father has to pay for the kids' school tuition, and it's too much, and he's going broke. So the mother wants to get rid of the kids, so she says she's taking them to an amusement park. But in the end, she just leaves them somewhere, and then there's a circus, and they go into the circus.
So you would get rid of the candy house?
Well, there could be candy at the circus.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, you sounds like you've been thinking about this one a lot.
No, actually, I haven't.
It's a great way. I mean, I haven't heard, they're doing on Broadway, they have a musical version of The Wizard of Oz as told from the witch's point of view. So, I mean, I'm surprised no one has tackled thank you. I couldn't remember their names all of a sudden. Would you modernize their names as well?
Yeah, I would have, because it would have been sort of different having Hansel and Gretel be in modern day.
Yeah, I don't know many Hansels and Gretels anymore in grammar school or middle school anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's really good. Well, see, now that's just sort of thoughts to throw in the back of your head. Are any of you writers? Who's a writer? All right. Kind of figured that, Jessica. Well, good. We'll look forward to reading your books in the future, I hope. Well, thanks to all of you guys for coming down here to the Downtown Library. So thanks to Jessica Gonzalez and to Nathaniel Latika and to Harleen Marwa and to Colin Palmenter. Thank you very much, all you guys. It was terrific.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us on the show.
Oh, gosh.
Thanks to our readers from St. Mark's Lutheran School and the LA Public Library for hosting the show. You can watch the YouTube version of this episode, and we'll put a link to it in our show notes and at the website, bookclubforkids.org. This episode is made possible by a grant from the LA Department of Arts and Culture as part of Creative Recovery LA, an initiative funded by the American Rescue Plan. Thank you. I'm Kitty Felde. Thanks so much for listening.